So we have 7 days to get this car ready for its first shakedown.
Okay, and do you think that that's going to be enough time for you guys?
No, but we'll get her done. So we really like the idea of building your own rally car. As a matter of fact, here at the shop, every year I take the entire crew rallying. So as a result, the whole staff here is excited about working on a rally project. So the older legacies, I'm gonna call the older legacies the 90 to 1994. We'll call that, the first platform. Actually, it started in 1989, to be honest. We do see a few of them. The trouble that we run into is the parts situation, where some of the parts are no longer available, and so we have to get creative when we're servicing those cars.
The biggest problems would be the head gaskets and oil leaks. I noticed it's leaking internally, which can cause an overheat issue. The brakes are also very worn out. Hoses are old and not of factory quality, so they can be an issue as well. That can cause dirt to get into the joint and start wearing away at the metal bearings inside of it and start making noise and potentially fail. Bushings are worn out, which can make it hard to find the right gear when you're in a race. Overall, it's decent condition for its age.
This particular car has definitely seen some use. The word hoopty comes to mind, but you know what? That's what we're here to do. Is we're gonna take this car from its current state at 266,000 miles, where it's definitely seen some use.
Definitely good for taking over jumps.
And we're gonna correct all that stuff and see what this car can do out on the track. Before the Impreza came the Legacy, and as a result, I think Legacy is kind of one of the forgotten cars. So we're really excited about the project because I think that the Legacy is actually going to be able to do a lot more than the average person thinks that it might be able to out on the track. Yeah, I think if we put this 2.2 liter up against anything else naturally aspirated, it's going to do just fine. It's going to do more than hold its own. It's going to surprise everybody. Anytime that you're doing head gaskets to a car with 266,000 miles, there's always going to be some unknowns. There's going to be some things that, even though we've done a real thorough job of looking at the vehicle, till we get the engine out and apart, we just really have no idea 100% what we're up against. So one of the concerns I would have just knowing this car from this era would be the valve train components. If there's any gunk or grime built up, that may turn the a head gasket job into a valve job. And then doing a valve job when the lower end's got 266,000 miles, you're going to have a weak link, and that may not be the best way we would do something for a customer. But given this situation, we feel pretty strongly that we're going to be able to do this and put it back together, and it's going to run real strong. Some of the other concerns that we have, it would be as a result of years of oil leaks, there's a lot of bushings that have become oil soaked, and that's kind of created a safety concern, mostly with steering. The rack and pinion bushings are just oil saturated, and as a result, the rack and pinion is actually moving right to left when you steer rather than good responsive steering. But hey, we're going to take care of that. These are OE axles, right? But I want to show you something. See how they got the black paint over them? So this green and then black.
Yeah.
At one point in time, these were remanufactured by Northwest Axle Express, who's been out of business for about 4 or 5 years. So I can at least give you that date. We used to use these guys exclusively, but again, they went out of business. So the green joint, so just so you know, this is actually 266,000 miles. That's what's on this axle. Exactly the same. You can see this one had front as well. But you can get a couple more miles out of it if you would like. You can see the shininess getting right down to the rivet.
Yeah.
You can kind of see the difference. That kind of signifies that you've got a little bit of a caliper issue going on. Timing covers, and what happens is that the inserts, they give out So there should be a brass insert there and a brass insert there. So here's the head gaskets. This should not be ballooned up at all whatsoever. This should be just completely flat like it is there. And what you can actually see is, see that area right there? See how it looks there? And then look how it's expanded there? That's the area where the gasket itself, under load situations and a temperature and expansion, basically the combustion chamber pressure and temperature is making its way into the cooling system. You can see how and they're just soft as well, you know. But, and I will tell you this, there's no way that the rubber they use on cars will last as long as these ones did. No way, not now, not even close. Accessory belts, these were aftermarket replacements that are becoming cracked. It's hard to say exactly how long they've been on there. Again, the timing belt had been replaced once, but again, you can see the signs of cracking. It's the water pump, which I don't know if we're gonna be able to capture this with all of the noise, but it's very noisy. And I forgot to tell you is I had a water pump that we ended up, it was a demo from a vendor that I picked up at a World Pack trade show, and that's the one that went on your car. These were actually replacement hoses. These are aftermarket, just the radiator hoses. Everything else was OE. I forgot about that aspect of it, but you can see, I don't know if you can see the scale built up in there. That's an indication that, you know, the coolant probably wasn't changed as often as it should have been. Water pump elbow hose, this is OE. Starting to swell from some of the engine oil leaks that were on it. Radiator cap, you see all of that right there. That's from the combustion chamber gases and the oil from the combustion chamber making its way into the cooling system and then rising to the top, just like oil does in water. This was the Canister Purge control solenoid that we were able to find a used one for. Another one, pretty rough. This one actually, it wants to stop spinning. Roller for the tensioner. And it's, again, it's fairly noisy again. It's hard to hear it. Here's the rack and pinion bushings. Yeah, they've seen better days. Oil soaked from the engine oil leaks, and as a result, worn almost all the way through. And just torn. So it's gonna feel much more responsive in driving it now. Cracked knock sensor. These three right here are the intake bypass hoses. The last one's the water pump elbow hose. Aftermarket PCV. We've never found these to work quite right. I don't think they're orificed right. Shifter bushings. Yeah. See the rust. They were very worn out too as well. Without comparing this to a new one, it would be really hard to see just how worn out these are, but they're very worn. One of the things that happens when you have engine oil leaks is that all these little rubber seals that are actually designed to be sealed away from engine oil, it makes them swell so they no longer fit back on the timing cover. This was the factory remain seal for this car. NOK, black. These haven't even been available since 1998. This is a rubber seal. That was a rubber seal. That's camshaft support O-ring. No longer like rubber. Last time I checked, rubber doesn't break. Engine coolant temperature sensor that wasn't giving the right readings back to the ECM. The wrist pin access washers. This, and that. This all part of the power steering pump reseal that we did. Cam seal. This would, again, these haven't been available since 1998. The replacements became a tan color because it's a Viton seal in 1999. So that gives you an idea just how old that seal has to be. Intake gaskets, which if you look, they were also leaking. You can see where it's all the way through. There's more gasket material left in certain parts. The older 1990, let's just call it the first generation Subaru Legacy, those things were just battle wagons. They just went and went and went, and a lot of those OE components you could run because it was a non-interference engine. So you know what, at the end of the day, if you didn't replace the timing belt idler because you just didn't have the money or you just didn't know, it wasn't the end of the world. You were stranded, but you didn't do any major, catastrophic engine damage. Nowadays, if you leave one of those items go, it's all over with the screaming and shouting. So as such, we rarely do a timing belt without replacing all of those timing components. But on the older cars where you could get away with it, you did get away with it. The engine itself still has 266,000 miles on it. Now all of the gaskets and seals have been replaced and you should be able to push it pretty hard. But the bearings still have some wear, the piston rings still have some wear. So, I wouldn't constantly rev it up to the point where the rev limiter is trying to shut the engine down, but as long as we kind of keep it below that point, we should be good to go.